What the hell is going on?
It is fight night, and it's not me, guys. It's Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. That was my walkout. That's my walkout if I ever get the call up to Misfits. At JJ, tell him I'm ready for the fight. You actually got a message from Misfits.
I did get a message from Misfits, but nobody wants to see me box. If
No.
If you're gonna do the walkout, you have to box.
4,000 likes and thogdad will be in the next Misfits. That's the deal. He actually got asked to fight Simple Simon, and he didn't respond to Mike. I keep telling him to take the fight, but we're here to predict Jake Paul against Mike Tyson. I can't believe this fight is actually happening. I can't believe we're in a world where Mike Tyson, who thoroughly deserved career, should retire happily, is back in the boxing ring.
Do you know what? Full marks to Jake Paul for organising this.
Yeah.
Is this boxing or is this show business?
Yeah.
Or is
It's
it
a
a
good
mixture of
question.
the two?
Yeah.
I can't work it out. It's
Americanized boxing. It's Americanized boxing, Dad. It's gonna get the whole country watching. In fact, probably the whole world. Everyone in the UK is banging on about it. And whether you like him or not, it's genius business.
It's brilliant business, Thea, because what you've got is a man who was brilliant 30 odd years ago against one of the most famous guys in the world. So this is a spectacle. We are drawn to it like moths to a flame.
I want to say not just us, but so are the TV platforms. One of the biggest in the game, Netflix, doing their first ever boxing live show. And actually, the first pay-per-view boxing show that I think I've ever seen on the platform like this. They bought the rights to it completely. You have to watch it on Netflix. It's insane. We're going to be doing a live stream on the main channel. Make sure you tune in. We're going to be watching it from our Netflix app. And I can't believe that. But imagine how much money everybody within this boxing community has made from taking on this fight.
And it's all about money, isn't it, Theo? I heard that the purse for Jake Paul is $40 million.
Jeez.
And the rumours are he's bet the lot on himself.
On himself. Rightly so. I mean, you are in prime condition. You're 27. For the 4 years he's been doing boxing, it's a pretty good lineup. We're going to go through that.
Yes.
And then you've got Mike Tyson, who's well out of what he once was. Well beyond it. Well past it. It's like getting a prime footballer and a guy like Wayne Rooney, and you're doing a football challenge against him. You're doing more training, you're in more better condition, you're more likely to win the fight, so no wonder he's bet on himself. It's the reason why he's the favourite, Dad.
Theo, it brings two generations together, because you've got my generation
I know.
that was brought up on Mike Tyson, and you won't remember this because you weren't born. When I was young, Theo, when this man was at his prime, he was an animal. I lived in the UK, of course, he lived in the States. I was scared by him. I don't know if that makes sense. I was scared by this man because he wasn't just a very good boxer, probably one of the 10 to 20 best boxers of all time. He was frightening. Because if you look at his upbringing, Theo, I think by the age of 13, he'd been arrested 38 times.
Yeah, lots
he brought
of bad
up on the
things.
inner city streets of Brooklyn in New York.
The difference is you've got one man who had to box for the sake of a good life, and you've got another man who was brought up in a very different upbringing. You know, had his brother getting onto Vine, they finished uni, they were in Ohio. They already had a decent life, but they made it on social media. They became one of the biggest stars. And for a lot, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, they've always been the most hated in the game. And for the right and wrong reasons, they're always spoken about. And Jake Paul especially, since getting into boxing, he's cracked a nerve. He's got on everyone's nerves. Yet you're talking about him, you're watching it, you're pay-per-viewing this man. It's genius. So let's go through. I mean, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, they've had episodes already on Netflix as previews. Have you watched them?
I've watched them all, Theo, and I am fascinated by both of these characters. But I'll quite admit it, Theo.
Yeah.
I dislike them both intensely. I'm not going to explain why. I'll go back to something you just said. You talked about Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
If he didn't discover boxing, if he didn't find a mentor, he went to a sort of correctional facility.
He probably wouldn't be alive.
And he wouldn't be alive. It is as simple as that. So boxing made his life.
Saved him.
But saved his life and then made his life. And if you look back at his career, Theo, the stats are the first 36 times he boxed, he won.
Yeah.
And it was usually a knockout, and that was usually in round one. So in his career, 50 wins, 6 defeats, and 2 where there was no contest. And 3 of the last 4 fights he lost. So right at the end, he'd gone too far with the lifestyle. He'd got into drugs and alcohol and
Didn't
women.
pay his taxes. He actually announced that on a podcast.
Something we've got to say about this man, he is a thoroughly dislikable character.
Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson.
Wow.
Now, you see him in that film, The Hangover and The Hangover 2, and you think there's something jolly and interesting about him with the tiger. He went to prison for rape.
Wow.
Yeah, he was found guilty of rape. He beat up his first wife. He got done for drunk driving. He was big into the drugs and the alcohol.
And yet, he's still got the streets. He rocks up to where he first was brought up, and everyone's loving him, supporting him, saying he's going to win his fight against Jake Paul.
Do you know what? And even I, before I sort of did my research, I was saying, well, I hope he knocks out this Jake Paul. Then I sort of remembered, did my research and thought, you know what? I don't want Mike Tyson to win this. I don't like the guy. He's a thoroughly unpleasant individual.
Yet, taking this fight, he's seen as the savior of boxing, has the opportunity to knock Jake Paul out, end YouTuber boxing, finally give one back to, stick to your own lane type thing. I feel like original boxing supporters are ignoring everything you just said and are praying for Jake Paul's downfall. Yet all Jake Paul's done is brought more money into the boxing world. There's a lot of young kids nowadays who are aspiring boxers because of Logan, because of JJ, KSI, because of Jake Paul, and they don't want to admit it. The sport has gone 3x, 4x, 5x thanks to people like them. And the original boxing fans don't want to admit it's actually made them richer. It's made the sport more watched.
And do you know what? I sat down at a dinner with Frank Warren a few months ago, and I mentioned YouTuber boxing, and I thought he was going to have a right go at me. And he's like, do you know what, Stephen?
Yep.
The fact that eyeballs have come to the sport is a good thing for boxing.
Absolutely.
That's what Frank Warren said, and he's one of the best promoters in the world.
Yeah.
There is that side of it. What I would say about Jake Paul, he comes across as a dick. He comes across terribly, but I don't know whether that's a complete act.
I think it's a mix of both. Look, he has to have confidence for what he does.
Yeah.
He's always had the Lambos, the nice cars. He's always been the guy partying in LA and then kind of escaped that lifestyle, got into boxing, got his fitness up.
I mean, he's a fascinating individual, Theo.
Yeah.
If you look at his life story and how he came up as a teenager in the YouTube world, and he went
Vine.
to work for Disney, and then one day he decided, you know what? I'm going to go in a different direction and box.
Clever.
And you look at his career, it's 11 fights, isn't it? He only lost one, didn't he? Tommy Fury.
Yeah.
He's won the other 10. But you look at who he's fought, and I respect what you just said, Theo. He's gone out and he's trained, and he's got good trainers, and he's lived the right life, and he's put on whatever weight he needed to get into the category. But he's only, on the whole, fought UFC people. He's not fought.
Okay, let's go through the fights. He
boxers.
started with Anison Gibb and Deji, which were just nothing fights. Neither of them were even scraping the barrel of what Jake Paul was at the time. Then he fought an NBA player, Nate Robinson, fit as a fiddle, but not a boxer. Knocked him out. And then as each fight built, he gained a little bit more experience and improved his boxing skills. To what he is today is very impressive. And what's helped him get in there was knocking out Ben Askren, who was a UFC champion at one stage. Incredible how he did that. A lot of people put big money on Ben Askren.
Yeah.
A lot of the American celebrities. Then 2 UFC former champions of Tyrone Woodley and Anderson Silva. Let's give him the credit he deserves. Those guys have to box in UFC. And they are at an age where they're not just finished or retired. They can still hold their own. And he knocked them out. He smashed them. He won both.
Yes, and look, I respect that, Theo. I respect him as a showman. He's obviously an incredible businessman. He's incredible at self-promotion. He's one of the most famous people in the world, and he's reinvented himself. And I respect all of that. If he was to fight at some point, he wants to be world champion. He wants to be world champion at, I don't know which weight, probably not heavyweight, because he'd drop a few pounds.
That's the thing, Dad. So can I just explain? Paul has fought 185 pounds and 205 pounds. The upcoming fight, he's never competed at heavyweight before. This is a heavyweight match because it has to be against Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So it's different weight levels, different powers he's ever experienced before. That's what gives Mike Tyson a chance. If he catches Jake Paul, could be over. Could be over.
Yes.
The power he brings to the table. Yes, he's 58 years old, but he's never faced anything like it.
Yeah.
So anyone, tipping on Mike Tyson, believing in him, catching that one lucky punch could knock him out. And that will be spoken about for ages. The fact he comes back after 25 years without being in the ring, from a lifestyle of literally smoking, the old green and taking mushrooms, coming back and doing what everybody remembers of him. It would be an iconic moment. I just don't think it will happen.
Well, I'm in two minds about this.
Okay.
Now, with some boxers, Theo, they go on too long. Mike Tyson went on too long. I've already said he lost 3 of his last 4 fights. And when he lost to Kevin McBride, Theo, you thought, Mike Tyson, you should have retired a long time ago. The reason he's coming back, let's be honest.
Money.
Money.
Look, I'm going to be real, guys. You probably think, Mike Tyson, he's got millions in the bank. Probably a little bit less than you expect. He got caught up by the tax man later on in his life after his boxing career and had a very expensive lifestyle, had the people around him, was spending whatever he thought. He did have money, but it did go away quickly. This is probably his final payday, so he can maintain a nice lifestyle in America for the rest of his life. He needs this as much as Jake Paul.
He needs the money, Theo. If he loses this, so let's question what would the results mean to them?
Let's just say this, Dan.
Mike Tyson, Theo, he's going to make tens of millions from this. So he wins, yeah? And if he loses, hey, it's because he's 58 years old.
Still made the money.
His legacy kind of to some extent was ruined by going on too long.
Yeah.
Whereas with Jake Paul, if he wins, well, yeah, you beat Mike Tyson, you made a lot of money. You've beaten a 58-year-old boxer, Theo.
And you're 27.
And if you lose this, and you're right, the first couple of rounds, well, they're 2 minutes each, aren't they, these rounds?
They're 2 minutes each, so it's different to the usual rules. Usually it's 3 minutes a round. They're going to go 8 rounds, and it's going to be for 2 minutes a piece, which is helping Mike Tyson. It means there's less likely to be a knockout,
yes,
to be honest.
And you're right in terms of the betting. Jake Paul is the favourite, but not by a huge amount. And some people are putting money on a Mike Tyson knockout in the first couple of rounds.
Now that makes sense.
That could happen.
You could shed your bets and go for a knockout in the first couple of rounds, Mike Tyson, and then if it goes past 2 rounds, you've got to back Jake Paul. Because truthfully, the fitness and the quickness that he brings to the table and what we've seen of his last few fights.
Do you know what, Theo? What sort of swings it for me is the age difference.
Yeah.
You've got a guy who's 58 fighting a guy who's 27. On top of that, and they say that, you know, the fights are often won in the gym. We know for sure, don't we, that Jake Paul
100%.
100% training every single day.
Yeah.
He's eating the right things
Sleeping
at
well.
the right time. He's sleeping well.
Doesn't he live in Puerto Rico? So he's away from any distractions.
Correct. What you don't know is how Mike Tyson, of course, you see the clips from the gym and it looks good because that is stage managed. You're being shown what Mike Tyson wants you to see.
Yeah.
Is he in there every day? I don't know. You don't know. I suspect that Jake Paul is preparing better for this fight.
Before we give our final prediction, I want to mention, on the note of Puerto Rico, let's talk about the next big fight that evening, the undisputed women's super lightweight title between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano from Puerto Rico against Taylor, she's Irish. That fight, how many punches did it have last time out?
There were 320 punches, I believe.
Isn't that the best women's fight ever? Ever.
It was an incredible fight, Theo. And for me, this is the one fight that I'm really interested in. I'm more interested in this fight, Taylor Serrano, than in the YouTuber celebrity fight.
No.
Because this is a real fight between two absolute champions.
I'm going to give my prediction quickly.
Go on.
Serrano's going to beat her.
I think the same, Theo. And it's almost impossible to call. It's actually toss a coin, heads or tails.
It will probably be a decision again, wasn't it? Okay, and finally, Dad, let's get to our prediction. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. I think given what we've said, we're going to go for a Paul win. But what round and what placement? Will it be KO, TKO, decision? What are you thinking?
I'm not sure that Mike Tyson can take 8 rounds of 2 minutes.
Even with 14-ounce gloves. 10 ounce is the usual amount.
I suspect it might end by about the 5th or 6th round. I think Jake Paul's going to win it. It might be sort of a technical knockout. I don't think
That's
Tyson
exactly
is...
what I predicted.
Yeah.
I've got it written down. Jake Paul to win via TKO round 5.
Right.
The towel's going to come in. The team are going to protect a guy that's been way too old, fighting a 27-year-old fit as a fiddle fighter who's actually knocked out some decent blokes in their prime age. This shouldn't be a fight at AT&T Stadium, but it's going to make a lot of money. The whole of America's going to be watching. We're going to be watching. We're going to be live streaming this, so we agree. 4K likes. Thogdad will also have a misfits. I'm walking out with him. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy fight night. See you on the stream. Bye-bye.